Hello and welcome to Wednesday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where after a few days in a row of being faced with daunting puzzles, well, I'm not sure what to make of this one. It's called 121. It's by Dorlir, the maths professor, and this has a 1 star out of 5 for difficulty on Logic Masters Germany, which sounds great, doesn't it? Until just before I turned on the webcam, I went to Logic Masters because I saw this was the puzzle coming up, and I always like to read the comments in case there's anything interesting. And this was one of the comments from Onkel Dagobert. Given the 1 star difficulty and the fact that to this point 45 people have solved this, I am apparently the only one who found the break-in brutally hard. So that does not sound like a 1 star puzzle, does it? And this features perhaps the greatest cage in Sudoku history. There is a cage here that is 121. It's just enormous. It sort of no, I was going to say it goes to every 3x3 box. It doesn't quite. It visits 8 of the 9 3x3 boxes. And yeah, you'll have gathered from that digits, I think, can repeat within cages in this puzzle. But we'll have a look at this in a moment or two's time. I want to start actually by thanking those of you who joined us last night for our Islands of Insight stream. What a game that is. That is absolutely brilliant. Mark and I loved it and will definitely be returning to it the next time we stream, basically. So it's apparently there are 10,000 puzzles in the game, but it looks beautiful as well, and it's clearly been designed by people who really, do love puzzles. A lot of the puzzles had Nurikabi type themes, and I'm actually really looking forward to playing the game again. And in a way, we don't want to stream too often, but when you get a computer game and you really want to play it, well, that's how I feel about that game. So yeah, we'll return to that in a few days' time. Otherwise, I mean, the only other interesting thing, or I thought it was interesting, and I'm sort of a bit humbled by it, is that some 1,500 of our patrons have already watched the 3.5-hour video in which I do battle with Emre Kolotoğlu's region geometry. I admire your perseverance, and I can't quite believe it, and the comments seem to be fine. So there is an appetite for the most enormously long videos to watch a man solve a Sudoku puzzle. So anyway, thank you for watching. And if you are a patron of the channel, that video is there at the moment. It is 3 hours and 36 minutes long. I jest not. It's an absolutely brilliant puzzle, but I found it so difficult, I cannot tell you. That's over there now. There's also our competition for March. There's other things as well. Lots of bonus content over there. The only other thing I wanted to say before we kick off and try and solve this puzzle is I wanted to do 3 birthdays. I'm going to start with Danny. Danny, you've turned 28 today. And I know this because your husband Hans wrote to us, told us that you really enjoyed watching the channel and asked for a birthday shout out. So Danny, many happy returns. I hope you have a great 28th birthday. And of course, I hope you have an enormous amount of chocolate cake with a huge amount of icing. Next, Freya. Freya, it's your birthday today, and I know this because your dad Corey wrote to us. And apparently you live on Prince Edward Island in Canada. The internet is amazing, but Freya, I'm very pleased to hear that you like Cracking the Cryptic, and I hope you have an absolutely great birthday today, with cake, of course. Oh, there's a noise coming from outside. And then finally, Jen. Jen, it's your birthday today, and I know this because your partner Sam wrote to us. I think you're down there in Australia, and Sam says he really likes the channel, but you, Jen, really like the channel. So, thank you both for watching. And Jen, I hope you have an absolutely brilliant birthday, with cake, of course. And with that said and done, let us turn our attention to 121. I don't know if that's meant to be 121. Yes, okay, it's just the size of the cage being dense. Not a good start. And let me read you the rules. Anyway, so we've got normal Sudoku rules apply. So we've got to put the digits 1 to 9 once each in every row, in every column, and in every 3x3 box. The digits within a cage must sum to the small clue in the top left corner of that cage. So the digits in that cage there, boom, sum to 121. And there's no stipulation, obviously, on digits not being able to repeat within cages. Normally in a killer Sudoku cage, digits cannot repeat, but given some of us know a secret, which is that sum of the digits 1 to 9 is only 45. That would put a cap on the size of a cage if digits couldn't repeat. So digits can repeat in the cages in this puzzle, or in the cage in this puzzle. And the inequality sign points to the smaller digit. So this is a normal inequality sign. So that digit is bigger than that digit, and that is it. Though that, I just had a thought about that. But anyway, do have a go. The way to play is to click the link under the video. It's only 1 star. Everyone should be able to do it, apparently, unless it is brutal. But now I get to play. Let's get cracking. I'm just thinking about the disambiguation of this puzzle. What do I mean by the disambiguation? Well, I'm obviously going to fill this cage with... Well, when I say obviously, I can imagine a situation emerging where we know the digits that have to appear in the cages. Yeah, so this has got a lot of work to do. I'm just thinking that how is the rest of this puzzle going to get disambiguated? Or how even... It sort of feels like this digit is going to be affected by this digit to me, and that's going to tumble through the grid. That could turn out to be absolute nonsense, but surely the first thing we've got to do here is try and sum up. Now, do we think 121 must be low, mustn't it? It must be on the low side, because we know from the secret, we know that a complete box of a Sudoku contains digits that sum to 45, and there are 9 such boxes. So the total number of digits in this puzzle, if the cage contained the whole puzzle, it would be a 405 cage. And it seems to cover quite a lot of the digits, so I'm guessing that this has to be minimumed. So let's work on that basis. What is the minimum sum of all the digits in this cage? Now, that is not... Well... Thing is, there are a number of ways that we could go about approaching that question. We could sum by row. So, for example, I can see these squares here. The minimum sum of those squares would be if they were the digits 1 to 8, and they would sum to 36. And then the minimum sum of those squares would be 15 if these were the digits 1 to 5. So we'd be up to 51. The minimum sum of those two digits would be 3 if this was a 1-2 pair. So we'd be up to 54. So the minimum sum of all this is 54. But we could split this in different ways. Let's just carry on doing the rows, and then we could, if this was a 1, we'd be on 55. That could be 10 if it was 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're on 65. 65, the triangular number for 7 is 28. So we're now on 93. Plus 6 if that was 1, 2, 3, 99. Oh no, we don't. Okay, so if my maths, I may well have got that wrong, I think. Because if that is 99, and then the triangular number for 6, if this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, is 21, that would only get us to 120, which is not what I was expecting. So I've probably done that wrong, I'm afraid. Let's try that again in a different way, because we could split this up in different ways. You see, we could say, okay, what's the minimum sum of those digits? Well, if we missed out a 9 from these, so that the red digits were just the digits 1 to 8, this would be 36. 36 plus 15 is 51, so we're still at 54 if we do it that way. Am I going to get the same answer? Or maybe I am. Then this would be 28. So now I'm on 82, 92, 93, 93 plus, so 94, 114, and 6 is 120 again. Oh dear. Okay, that's quite interesting. So maybe it is intentional that there is a degree of freedom. Maybe. I'm sorry, but I don't trust this at all. I'm going to actually try and do this by column as well, just in case you get a different answer. Okay, so that would be 36. Right, how many are there in this column? Okay, 36 plus 28, I think. That's 64, isn't it? Plus 21 is 85. Plus 15 is 100. 110, this looks better. 116. Oh, no, it's not. 119, 120. Ah! So however I dice this thing up, I always get 120. Okay. Right, but at least I have got the same answer doing it 3 different ways. So that does suggest I probably haven't made a mistake in the arithmetic. And we do have to... Well, what does that mean? So that means that in any one of those units that I was just calculating, so let's look at this unit, for example. When I did the box logic, what I did was I said I minimized those digits. And I said, okay, imagine they were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what we've now learned is that actually these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. There is the possibility that there is a 6 in there instead of a 5. In here, I assumed that these were a 1, 2 pair. But they could include a 3. They could be a 1, 3 pair. I assumed this was a 1. So this could be a 1 or a 2. But it depends on which version of the dicing we did. So that's all looking at box logic. For example, in this column, when I did the column minimums, I assumed that those 5 squares were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We've now learned that they could include a 6. So this digit here looks to me to be interesting. Do I therefore know? I mean, this digit, well, we know this package of digits is either 1 to 8 or there's 1 degree of freedom, because that was the minimum got us to 120. So if I substitute the 8 out and put the 9 into those green cells, I would use my degree of freedom. So this square is either the 9 or it's an 8. There's nothing else it could be. If we make this a 7, we've used 2 degrees of freedom in effect, because we could have put the 7 in here, and instead we have put an 8 and a 9 in here. So we've upped the minimum by 2. And that's too much. So this is an 8 or a 9. Now, does that have to go there? No. No, it doesn't actually. That's really strange. And I might be wrong about this as well, because if that is, that is 8 or 9. But this row... Oh no, no, it does have to go there. It does have to go there. Because what I was thinking is, but in this row here, when I did the minimums for the rows, I assumed this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if this was 8, why couldn't I put the 8 in here? But that doesn't survive box logic. What do I mean by box logic? Yeah, maybe it's boxes. Maybe that's what we've got to focus on. Because when I did the minimums by box, I assumed those squares were 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I assumed these were a 1, 2. I assumed this was a 1. I assumed these were 1, 2, 3, 4. And I got to 120 that way. So there is simply no way I can say, okay, I was assuming this was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to plonk an 8 or a 9 instead of one of those low digits into this collection of digits. That will not work. That will use up far too much freedom. So this digit is that digit. That's definitely true. And then I assumed these were a 1, 2 pair. So again, that digit is there. Right. And this digit, so by this logic, this digit is a 1 or a 2. Because when I did the box logic, I assumed it was a 1. It could rise to 2 without breaking the 121 cap, but it can't rise to 3. And these digits had to include, well, yeah, they have to include that digit. Yeah, this might be how you do this. You might have to literally sort of work on the basis that you can approximate some of these digits. But for example here, my box logic assumed these were 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, they could be 1, 2, 3 and 5. That would still work. That would increase the minimum total of these 4 cells from 10 to 11. And that would use the degree of freedom taking us from 120 to 121. But there is no way they can not include a 1 and a 2. Or 1 or a 2, or whatever that digit is. So that digit must be here. And probably it must be there, yeah, because again, I've assumed these were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I was to take out this digit from that and replace it with an 8 or a 9, we'd be in bonkers world. We don't want to be in bonkers world, so that digit is very low. And that makes sense, actually, when we think about how we were thinking, or at one point I added the rows to find the minimums, didn't I? And I assumed in that calculation that this was a 1. So the fact that this is a 1 or a 2 is of no surprise, because it could rise to 2 and keep us down to the minimum. But if it was 2, it would use the degree of freedom by row logic. Yeah, okay. So what we've actually got in these 3 rows is roping, I think, because, well, let's take a look at these squares. These squares are selected from 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, aren't they? Definitely. Because we could, this is either a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadruple, or it's 1, 2, 3, 5 quadruple. So these digits are only selectable from these options. But if we were to miss out, if we were to put a blue digit into one of these squares in box 6, then we'd be taking out quite a low digit from this total and necessitating putting into this total either an 8 or a 9. Because when I did the minimums, I assumed this was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So no 8 and no 9. So if I take out a 5, say, and substitute in an 8, I'm blowing this total wide open. So those squares have to be blue. These squares have to be blue. And this is a classic pattern that you get in some Sudokus. We call it roping, because once you establish that this sort of pattern happens in one set of 3, we can extend it now, because we could ask a question like, where do these digits now appear in this box? Well, given that they can't be the blue digits and they can't appear in their own row, they've got to go up there, which means they've got to go there, which means that, well, we might as well extend green then. So those we've also got this pattern. Now, so these are from 7, 8 and 9, aren't they? Because in my minimum world, I left out 8 and 9 from this cage. I could leave out 7 and 9, but I can't leave out more than that, or this is going to get too big. So these are 7, 8 and 9. These are 7, 8 and 9. Oh. Ah, yeah, okay. Right, so this is roping up here. Okay, I think I'm finally understanding this. I don't think this is that easy. But look, those 2 squares, let's make them yellow. I assumed when I was doing my minimum calculation they were a 1-2 pair. So they could be a 1 and a 3, but they can't be anything different from that, and they must have 1 in them. And those, I assumed they were 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Well, they could be 1, 2, 3, 4 and 6, but they've definitely got these digits in them. So those digits have to be there, those digits have to be there, and now we've got roping here. It's a bit harder to see, but it's true. These 3 squares are the same as these 3 are the same as these 3. So those 3 squares, we'll make those, oh, red's a horrible colour actually, make them grey, have to go there, have to go here. These squares, and these squares all mimic one another. We'll make those lime green. So have we also got roping in the bottom of the grid as well? Hang on, let's just also make sure that we keep track of what we definitely know about digits. I don't know whether I'm meant to put, I mean, this is getting quite pencil marky. If I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 in here. Well, no, I suppose it would be 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Maybe a better thing to do is to note 7 must be in one of these squares, 7 must be in one of these squares, 7 must be in one of these squares. That feels a slightly less offensive pencil mark to me. So could I make a yeah, I can do the same here with 6, can't I? 6 can't go in blue and isn't in green. So 6 is in one of these, 6 is in one of these, 6 is in one of these. So maybe 5, maybe that works for 5 down at the bottom somehow. Let's think. Now, I think we have got roping at the bottom. If we look at those squares, I assume they were 1, 2, 3 in calculating my minimum. So they could be 1, 2, 3, 4, but they've definitely got 1 and 2 in them, and either 3 or 4. Now these squares in my minimum calculation I assumed were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Well, they could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 7, but they definitely must have, whatever these digits are, they must be in that sextuplet. So therefore, again, we've got roping. I'm running out of colours now. I'll make those red. Now, what does that mean? So basically everything ropes. I actually wonder whether we've also got roping in the column somehow, but that's a terrifying. That can't be how we're meant to do this. These definitely include 1 and 2. These squares well, these squares here do not we know that this is either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 7. So 8 and 9 are the missing digits here. So 8 and 9 have to be there. By roping, 8 and 9 have to be here, and 8 and 9 have to be here. And 9 cannot go there on the inequality. And that gives us our first digit. Good grief. So it wasn't this digit. I thought the inequality was going to interact here, but I don't think it does actually. I think it interacts here. This is really clever. This is nothing like 1 star out of pi. It's taken me 23 minutes to get here. And I've still got no digits in the grid, although I have now got one. I know what that digit is. And the reason I think I know what that digit is that I don't think it's possible for the 8 and the 9 in this triple here to both be in these squares. Because if this was 8 and 9, what digit would we put here? It would have to be lower than 8 or 9, and it would render the inequality incorrect. So that digit must be either 8 or 9, and therefore that is an 8-9 pair in column 1, and that is a 7. And that is massive. Actually, that's absolutely massive for a totally different reason. But it's now, that's the degree of freedom gone. What do I mean? Well, now green up here, there's a 7 in one of those, which means that this was not minimumed. So to minimise this, we said it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. Well, it cannot be that now because the 7 doesn't live in the cage in this box. So in fact, this is not an 8-9 pair. It is a 7-9 pair, which is... Well, that gives me another digit then. That's a 9 then. Oh no, it doesn't work. Right, so how do we use that to our advantage? Right, okay, it is huge. That is huge. Because now we know that by box logic, the degree of freedom has gone in this box where there is an 8 in there where we could have put a 7. And so in every other box, everything's minimumed. Everything is absolutely minimum. So in this box, we cannot now put the 5 in here, because then we'd have a 5 increasing the minimum here, as well as having an 8 increasing the minimum here, and that would take us up to 122 minimum. So these squares have to not be those. I think, well, the other point, of course, is because box 6 has consumed my minimum, that has to be a 1 now. That has to be a minimum, so that has to be a 1. That has to be a 1. This is 2, 3, 4, so this is 2, 3, 4. This is 2, 3, 4. This has to be a 1, 2 pair. So this has to be a 1, 2 pair by roping. This has to be a 1, 2 pair by roping. Oh, look, look, look. So now this 1 is going to give me some joy. All right, a very small amount of joy. But we can probably do that again. Well, yeah, actually, I know these digits as well by the same sort of thing. In this box, these digits must be the minimum because they weren't minimumed here. So that's got to be 9. So that's become a 9. That's become an 8. Okay, so that wasn't perfect, but it did do something. So that loses its ability to be 7. We can pencil mark orange in the central row. That's got to be 4, 5. Oh, no, that's wrong. I didn't see the fact that 8, we've got to put 8 in here, don't we? Yeah, that's right. That's because that's where the degree of freedom goes. So this is not 8. Okay, and then we can also say, well, we should be minimizing this, so that's going to be a 1, 2, 3, which means this is also a 1, 2, 3, and therefore the 1 is placed, the 2 is placed, the 3 is placed. Good grief. That's a 4 by dint of the fact it sees 2 and 3, so that's a 2 and that's a 3. I see. Okay, and now we just repeat this trick. We know this has to be a minimum box, so that's got to be 3, 4, 5. That's got to be 3, 4, 5. So that's 5. That's 3, and that's 4. So it does go 3, 4, 5. So these squares are now right. There's 6, 7, 8, and that means these are all 6, 7, 8. Right, so that's a 6 because it sees 7 and 8. They probably go 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, but we're going to have to work out, well, we're going to have to prove that that's the case. Look, the 1 there does me these 2 digits, so these are going 1, 2, 1, 2. In fact, that gives me a 3 here, a 1 and a, yeah, this one's going 1, 2, 3. That's got to be a 4 now, that's got to be a 2, and that's got to be a 3. Oh, it's magical. It's just going to it's just unwinding. Oh, this is so strange. What a peculiar and fascinating puzzle this is. So these are 1, 2, and 3. Oh, look, the 1. That's got to be 1. That's got to be 2. So that's got to be 3, 1, 2. This goes 1, 2, 3. Now we know that this is a minimumed box because that's the degree of freedom's gone here. So this is 4, 5, 6. We know where the 4 is. We know where the 5 is. We know where the 6 is. So these are 7, 8, 9. Oh, actually, I can see that's going to give me a 7 here on the inequality. A 9 here, a 7 here, and 8. Ah! Oh, okay, it goes 8, 7, 9, 8, 7, 9. So here it doesn't yeah, the order's a bit messed up. That's a 9 in the corner, 7 here, 8 here. This is 4, 5, 6. This is 4, 5, 6. That's not 6. That's not 4. In fact, that's a 5 by Sudoku. It sees 3 and 4 in the column, which means that's the 3, that's the 4, that's a 6. 4, 5 is resolved. Okay. Now we can put 7 there. We can put 8 here. We can put 6 here. We can put 6 here, 5 here, 8 here. So this is all done. Now, how do we do this column? Can we do it with, is it 6s or 5s probably actually first, isn't it? 5s first, then 6s, then 8s, then 6s here, then 7s, then 8s. 7 goes here by Sudoku, so that's an 8, so that's an 8. And that's a 6, and that's a 5, and that's a 4. We could get, oh, we probably will get a 3 in the corner, because this is going 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. So there is still a hope about that. Okay, 2, 3, 3. The 2 here is giving me 4, 3, 2. That's what we were expecting. So there is a 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight, losing its religion. That's 5. That's 6. And the puzzle's filled itself in. What a bizarre creation that is. Wow. Yes, I do like that. That's amazing. Again, Dorlir is blessed with this incredible mind where he comes up with just weird things that really play with your expectations. I mean, it's very odd. It's very odd when you discover that this doesn't add up to 121 if you take the minimums. And then it's very odd to think about how you can approach the question of where the digits go. And then it was quite surprising to me, at least, that roping is forced. And then it was surprising that this resolved everything. Well, yeah, it was, the weird thing was that there was an 8-9 pair here, wasn't it? Because once that was 7, the degree of freedom got used up there. It's mad. Oh, I'm so looking forward to the comments on this, because I think this is going to be very popular, actually. It should be very popular. It's really interesting. And it's one of the puzzles. I think these are perfect video puzzles, because I can see why some people have found that easy, having done it. But I don't understand, before I've done it, how it could possibly be viewed as easy. It doesn't. And it didn't feel easy when I was solving it. So there's a sort of inbuilt contradiction. Anyway, let me know in the comments how you got on. I enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic. As you promised me that I was more than all the miles combined, you must have had yourself a change out like halfway through the drive. Voice trailed up exactly as you passed my exit sign. Kept on driving straight and left our future to the right. Now I'm stuck between my anger and the blame that I can't face. Memories is something even weed does not replace. Terrified of weather cause I see you when it rains. Doc told me to travel but there's COVID on the planes. And I love Vermont, but it's the season of the sticks. And I saw your mom, she forgot that I existed, and it's half my fault, but I just like to play the victim. I'll drink alcohol until my friends get home for Christmas, and I'll dream each night of some version of you that I